And we're live.
It's a bit weird when I'm just sitting here waiting for everybody else to join. I should get up and do a song and dance.
Once people are joining, I can let you know, and then you can start the song and dance.
You'll know when people join. Right?
Yes, it should say. And maybe I'll let you know as well. Oh, we've got one viewer in. So maybe you can also just notify people as they come in that we'll be starting in a moment. We've got 4 people now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We're going to start in a few minutes once we've got a few more people join. Give them a few more minutes. In that meantime, I can sit here twiddling my thumbs, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do in the meantime. Get up, sing, dance. No, I'm not going to do that. You really don't. You didn't sign on for that.
Asya Sail Khan has said, hello, Carolyn.
Oh, Asia, have you signed on?
We've got 14 people in now. Asya says she misses you so much.
Oh, we miss you round here. I got your message today, Asia. I will reply to you soon. But yes, I'm missing your summer visit. For everybody else that's joined, Asia was at the college a few years ago, and she comes back and visits us every year.
We've got 22 people in now.
Oh, wow. At what point do I go viral? Is it 22?
Asya has also said this is her first summer without Goodenough after 5 years.
5 years? Was it 5 years ago she was here? Wow, it doesn't seem that long ago. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, a minute or so, and then we'll kick off.
Asya also says you look great, Carolyn. And we're now at 25 viewers. I would say we're certifiably viral.
We're possibly live at this point. So, hello everybody, and welcome to Goodenough College. This is our first ever virtual tour and Q&A. And decided to do this because we know that many of you can't travel at the moment and would like to see around the college. All the way normally through the summer we offer tours on Saturday, but obviously we don't have the opportunity to do that at the moment. So hopefully this is as close as we might get until you actually, some of you come and join us in the autumn. So I'm sitting here in the London House Library. It's kind of quiet at the moment because actually to comply with the UK government's guidelines on COVID, we've had to close off some of the spaces, but now that lockdown's easing in the UK, we're starting to reopen some things. So actually, if you look around the library a little bit, you can see that we're starting to set up the library to reopen in a few weeks' time. And we've got screens so that people can use the desks and socially distance. And you can see the big red tape across the books, so nobody's allowed to take out a book at the moment. But yeah, this is a very beautiful room and a very nice room to work in, and it will be open again in a few weeks, as long as we will provide the proper social distancing so that people can study here and get out of their rooms to study. It's been very hard for the members that have been here since March. They've been locked up in their rooms, with the only place to go is kind of out to the bathroom or down to go and get some food and then straight back to their rooms. It must be very difficult to work in a single room and study at the same time as well. So yeah, what can I tell you about the library? The library was one of the first bits of the building built. In 1937 the library opened, and it's called the Charles Parsons Library because Charles Parsons was an engineer, and it was built in his honour, and it was funded by all of these big noble societies that you can see up on the roof when you arrive: the Royal Society, the Institute of Physics, the Institute of Marine Engineers, Mechanical Engineers, Civil Engineers. Anyway, it's a very beautiful space. So the idea of this Q&A today is that I'll take you on a little walk around the college, and then at the end there'll be some time for you to post up some questions and I'll try and answer those. I did wonder whether or not we'd have time to go and visit rooms or studios today, and I thought it might be a little bit too much, and so actually you'll see in one of the other links that I've actually taken a whole load of videos inside each different type of room at the college and posted those little videos up. There's also lots of information on our website as well, floor plans, photographs, etc. I've been at the college for 11 years now, and actually I live in at the college as well. I live in London House, so I know a lot about what happens here, and hopefully I'll be able to answer all of your questions later. But let's start our virtual tour. You have to excuse me, I always travel with my handbag, so great big bulky handbag on shoulder. Here we go. I should introduce our projectionist as well, our camera, our cinematographer is Betty, who's one of our college members. So out of the library, hold the door for Betty. Careful on the stairs now, back camera. Careful for you, not the camera. So now we're coming out into what we call at Goodenough College the vestibule. It's basically just a kind of big empty plan space between the large common room and the great hall. It's used for various things around the college, but most of it is eat and drink. So breakfast and dinner is served in the Great Hall every day, and sometimes lunch. We have another place that we use for lunch as well called Freddy's, and you can see that we're getting ready to reopen the Great Hall as well for dining. At the moment we've only been using the Great Hall for takeaway meals at the moment so that people can ensure social distancing. But now the UK government has said that we can open up canteens and restaurants. And so we've relaid out the Great Hall. The seating capacity is reduced, and that's to allow people to dine at safe distance from other people. So once we open next week and members can come in here and have their meals, there'll be about 45 people that can sit in here. And as you can see, there's barriers up, so there's a kind of safe route for you to go around and collect your meal. And if you're not going to dine in, then obviously we're also serving takeaway to members as well. But we've carried on serving the members that have been here all the way through lockdown, and about 50% of members stayed through lockdown. So, it's been quiet, but, people have been kept safe, which is the most important thing. Okay, so what else can I tell you about the Great Hall? I'm not sure if there's the crests up on the ceiling, and we also use the Great Hall for balls and parties, and we're hoping that at some point in the next academic year we can reintroduce the Great Goodenough Party, because there's been some fabulous ones, and quite often the hall gets dressed up in a theme, whether it's a fairy tale theme or, as you can imagine from seeing this hall, a Harry Potter theme. I mean, it lends itself very well to a Harry Potter theme. And one thing that you can't see above us is the clock, which is what's called the Commonwealth Clock. And when you're here, we'll show you the Commonwealth Clock. And from the Commonwealth Clock, you can tell the time in all dominions of the Commonwealth. But yes, it doesn't work very well, to be honest, and there's only 2 in the world. I suspect that's why there's only 2 in the world, because it's not very easy to read and it doesn't always work. And the other thing that throws it out is British summertime throws it out as well. So let's go out of the Great Hall, back into the very echoey vestibule.
As we move outside, it might be good to speak a bit more loudly, Carolyn, just to make sure they can hear you.
Yeah, and so now we're out in the London House quad. So you can see behind me the quad, and London House is a building that's built around this quad. And actually, if we look down this way as well, what you can see are the cloisters, and all of the public rooms are there. So we've got a large common room, small common room, Churchill room, the chapel, and all of those areas are for members to use when they're here, for talks, for clubs and societies, etc. And otherwise, you know, we've got this beautiful quad. We're about to start croquet again next week, which will be really exciting. One of the first few sports that we can reintroduce at the college. And as we walk through the quad, to my right is what's called Freddy's Bar, and Freddy's Bar and Cafe, and that's open for lunch and it's open during the day for coffee and things, and in the evening it turns into a bar, so if you want an alcoholic drink you can have one, or if you don't want an alcoholic drink you can carry on drinking coffee. For those of you, I know that there are some alumni on the call, so those of you that are here, the Mulberry Tree is still doing very well, and we're hoping that it's going to fruit next month. And for those of you that have never eaten a mulberry off the tree, they're absolutely delicious. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk to the other principal building of the college, and some people get a bit confused about Goodenough College. Goodenough College is 2 buildings, London House and William Goodenough House. So London House, this is where most of the single rooms with shared bathrooms are. The single A, B and C rooms are in this building, and also the Great Hall where we all come to eat together. It's a very beautiful sunny day in London today. So we're coming up into reception, and as you can see, we have signs up to show, you know, to remind people about social distancing. Also, the reception has glass screens on it to protect the staff. Also, in each of the buildings and in various other areas, there are hand sanitisers which will use as they enter and exit the buildings. Just going to let the delivery guy in. Let's go out.
As we walk over to Willie G, Carolyn, there's a question about how will societies, sports, and events at the college be affected by COVID? This question is from Emily Fox. Maybe you can talk us through that as we take a short walk across.
And do post up if you can't hear me. There's a car just reversing you. We're just going to let it go past. The worst thing that would happen is for me to get run over while we're doing Facebook Live. Well, it's likely to not be the worst thing that would happen. I think it would, you know, be a viral clip afterwards. Clubs and societies are, you know, I won't deny, going to be very effective at the college for the next academic year. We are already planning on how we can reintroduce some music events and some other social events. At the moment in the UK, only 6 people can meet outside, or 6 people from different households can meet outside. So that does prevent an awful lot of the events that we would normally have taking place at the college. So what we're doing is a combination, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about already at your universities, a lot of blended learning. So in other words, what we're going to do is live events, but also stream those events for those that can't attend. But it is likely that an awful lot of the things at the college that we will be doing in the next academic year, or at least in the first term, will mean that we will need to have bookable places on them so that we can carefully control numbers. I mean, at the forefront of everything that we're going to be doing in the next academic year is to be keeping everybody safe and making sure that we're not transmitting the disease to other people. And we've been very successful at the college so far in keeping the control of coronavirus down and helping people that have been unwell to isolate and transferring them to a room with their own private facilities, and bringing them meals and checking in on them, etc. So that's always going to be at the forefront of our minds, and if it means that we have to curtail members' life and clubs and societies in order to do that, then we will. But all the way through this pandemic, right the way since we started, we've been having lots of live streams. So Betty, who's filming for me at the moment, has been doing a podcast with various people. Our Dean, Alan, has he's been having various colloquiums with our Goodenough Fellows, who have been broadcasting live on their specific subjects, and so we've been having lots of Zooms and virtual meetings, and we've been doing what we can to keep spirits up and keep people connected, and we'll be thinking very carefully about welcome and orientation and how we can get you to know other people, because that's one of the things that you come to the college for, is to get to know other people. And so even if we can't do that virtually, even if we can't do that in real life, we will be doing that virtually, and maybe putting you in contact with your neighbours and setting up virtual Zoom sessions so that you can actually meet your neighbours, find out who's next door to you, etc. Anyway, let's walk across the square. So we're really lucky on Mecklenburg Square in that we live on a square that's really quiet. We have seen 3 cars go past, but for London that is really quiet, because actually you can't drive all the way through this square, and so it's blocked off at the other end. So normally the only cars coming in are the ones that are coming to deliver something or to visit somebody. So I'm walking around from London House now towards Goodenough House, and on my left you can see the garden. Mecklenburg Square garden. It's for use for all the residents plus the college members. I'm not going to go in there now, but we'll have a little peek through the gate when we get to the gate. It's a beautiful garden. It's 200 years old. It's got some massive plane trees in the middle, which are over 60 feet tall, and it's got a tennis court in it, which we are using at the moment. It's also got a barbecue, 4 barbecue grills. At the moment we're not allowing the barbecues to be used because we can't be sure that they can be cleaned properly between usage. But yeah, it's a really lovely space to go out in, and members go out in there and have yoga classes or Tai Chi or those sorts of things. And on the other side from the garden is what's called the Goodenough on Mecklenburg Square. Now that's actually a hotel that the college operates, and it's open to the public. As a college member or as an alumni, you get a discount in the hotel. And it just opened up last week when the government told us that we could reopen hotels. It's set in 5 gorgeous, beautiful Georgian townhouses. And the reason we operate a hotel on the square is actually because the college is a charity. And so the proceeds of the hotel then feed back into the charity, which then eventually comes back to you for use for clubs and societies, for the upkeep of the college, etc. Let's go on to William Goodenough House. and we'll keep particularly slowly. It will really only take you about 3 minutes to walk from London House to Willie G, which is what we call William Goodenough House, Willie G.
So this is Carolyn's daily commute every day from London House to Willie G, ladies and gentlemen.
It is, yes. My office is in William Goodenough House and I live in London.
Now we're back. Apologies.
We lost internet connection as I was walking across the square. So we walked into William Goodenough House reception at the moment. And those of you that missed what I said, is William Goodenough House. If you hear us talking about it as Willie G, that's what we call William Goodenough House. And we're in the reception at William Goodenough House. And again, you can see the same safety features. We have screens up, and we have hand sanitisers and the signs reminding people that they must socially distance. So what we're going to do is just pop upstairs to the library in Willie G now. These are all pictures of the great women who ran Willie G in their time, apart from that one, that's obviously not a woman.
So Carolyn, earlier there was a question as well about what are the shared spaces that are available in the college, and I guess we're going to one right now.
Yeah, so we opened up the library in William Goodenough House this week. It's a bookable space again to make sure that it's kept crowded. This is the other library in William Goodenough House, also a very beautiful library. And as you can see, we've set it up so that people can work on one side of the table. There's a screen dividing them from the other side of the table. And it's, as I say, at the moment it's a bookable space because we just want to make sure that at the beginning we can control the numbers that are coming in here. So the college has 2 librarians who are actually college members as well. And they're actually setting themselves up in here when the library's open. At the moment it's closed because we've got 3 2-hour sessions a day, and between those 2-hour sessions our cleaners are coming in and cleaning the space, and then it's ready for the next people to come in later on. In terms of the common spaces in the college that are open, to be honest, they're all outside at the moment because that's what the government legislation in the UK is saying. You can only meet with one other person inside. And even that person, you must keep a social distance between you. So you can meet with up to 6 people in the UK at the moment outside. So actually any events that we're doing outside. So luckily it's the summer, and luckily for London it's a dry summer. And so, you know, that's why we're talking about introducing music events, which we might have a music event in the quad this month. We're reintroducing croquet. And the Dean is going to introduce something he's going to call the Scola. And the Scola is an intellectual talk, and it will be under that tree that I showed you in the London House quad, under the Mulberry Tree. And basically it's a talk. Only 6 people will be able to attend, and so it will also then be streamed live to anybody else that wants to attend at the same time. Obviously, as lockdown loosens even more in the UK, we will introduce things as the government allows. But at the moment, outside spaces are where people can congregate, and even then only in small numbers. There are 2 bars in the college. I showed you Freddy's bar, and then also in William Goodenough House we've got the G bar. The G bar's closed as well at the moment. We are hoping that government regulations will allow us to open it in September. Again, like everything, numbers will need to be controlled and limited of the numbers going in. So, you know, we'll have to sort of work out some sort of fair usage policy so that all of you can get to meet other people for real rather than virtually. So what would be good here is if maybe we just show you, actually we could go downstairs and show you out into the two quads. If you want to have a quick look around this gorgeous library. I think this library is actually even nicer than the London House library, but I know that London House people will fight me about that. Right, so let's go downstairs to the large common room in William Goodenough House. You through? Yep. Stopping on the way to say hello to our patron. The patron of the college is Queen Elizabeth II. She visits the college a lot. And we're coming into the large common room here, past what is the closed G bar at the moment. But as I say, we're hoping that we'll be able to reopen it in September. Nor the flooring, we're just doing some work in this room whilst it's a little bit quieter in the summer, but this will all be gone, obviously. But maybe we could just, before we stop in here, just show you the two quads in William Goodenough House. Although William Goodenough House is not as attractive from London House on the outside, from the inside there are two very nice quads. So here we are in the first quad. This is the garden quad. It's all right. It's all right. As long as you don't mind being on Facebook Live. Here we are, we're in the garden quad, and so there's some tables and chairs out here, so people can come and sit out, and when the G-bar's open, they can bring a drink out here. And actually, you know, you can see all of the rooms and flats are looking into this quad. There's also space over there to park your bicycle, so it's inside the quad and safe.
Hello, you guys.
And then over to the other side to the fountain quad.
We've got one prospective member here remarking about how gorgeous the whole place is.
It is, it's very nice. That's why I worked here for 11 years, and to tell you the truth, they'll have trouble getting rid of me at any point. I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I'm going to live here forever. So this is the fountain quad. So we've got two quads in Willie G, one quad in London House, and then two quads in Willie G. And that in the middle is the fountain, put in memory of a visit of our patron in 2011 when she came to visit. Again, but a very nice space with some seating and some benches around, but all of the rooms above are, you can see, are rooms and flats. So what you're looking at the moment are flats, 1 and 2 bedroom flats. And then over on this elevation, you can see actually we've got some scaffolding up at the moment. The scaffolding will come down the first week of September, but we've got a bit of a leak in the roof upstairs. So whilst it's still warm and dry, we are going to put some scaffolding up and repair that leak in the roof, and we might take the opportunity to paint a window or two, and then the scaffolding will come down in August, beginning of September. And then back into the large common room, and this is where I'll take questions. So if you've got questions and you want to post them up, I shall do my best to answer them.
Richard Pass has said, happy memories. Go Carolyn.
Richard Pass!
And Shreya Swaroop has said that the place is so mesmerizing and that she can't imagine booking the place anywhere else. Prudence has asked, who is Carolyn? Who is the patron? Can you repeat for the camera again?
Maybe I didn't make it very clear. The patron of the college is Queen Elizabeth II. And she actually helped fundraise to build William Goodenough House when she was still Princess Elizabeth in 1950. She launched the fundraising campaign to raise the funds to build William Goodenough House. William Goodenough House then opened after the fundraising and the first building phase in 1957, and by that time she was Queen, and she came with her husband, Prince Philip, and they opened Willie G in 1957, and at that time she then became patron of the college. So that's, when we talk about the college, we're talking about London House and William Goodenough House, and she's visited 11 times since. So we're really lucky to have the Queen as our patron. It is said that she's visited us more than any of the other charities that she is patron of. I suspect that it's only because Buckingham Palace is a mile down the road, so it's quite easy for her to nip over. To be honest, she never does nip over. We always get lots of notification and there's lots to do before she comes. But does anybody else have any other questions about, you know, what it's going to be like, quarantine? Let me talk a little bit about quarantine while questions come through. In the UK, we've opened up some air corridors, and so there are certain countries at the moment that if you come to the UK, you don't need to quarantine. And there's a list of those. Now that list could change. Countries could be added to that list. Countries could also be taken off that list. Quite frankly, I can't tell you what things are going to be like in September. So if you're currently coming from a country where you don't need to quarantine, then you can come straight here and book your room. If you're coming from somewhere that's not on that list, that does mean that you have to undertake 14 days quarantine when you arrive. Now, if you're booked into an ensuite room or a flat, you can undertake your quarantine in that ensuite room or flat. But if you're booked into a room where you're sharing a bathroom, then really, you can't really quarantine in that room. You will need to book a room in an ensuite room in William Goodenough House and keep in close contact with the admissions team. So now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, do I book a quarantine room or do I not book a quarantine room because I've no idea what's going to happen in September? Well, the answer to that is book a quarantine room. If you need to cancel it, it's fine, but at least we know it's booked. And you know that you've got a room booked for that time for quarantine. And as I say, if quarantine's no longer required in September, then you can email us and cancel the room and say, actually, I'm going to come 2 weeks later, or I'm still going to come at the same time, but I don't need to go into quarantine. Can I go straight into my room with shared bathrooms? Once you go into quarantine, I am afraid it is locking you up in your room for 14 days. But we will be in contact members will be in contact and staff will be in contact virtually and on the phone to check that you're all right. We'll also deliver meals to you 3 times a day as well. So, you know, unfortunately should be no reason for you to need to leave your room. And the idea obviously is to make sure that you haven't developed coronavirus symptoms in the meantime on your travels. If after 14 days you're still fit and well, then that's it. You can leave quarantine and off you go around your business. Otherwise, you know, if you do become unwell at that point, we will carry on looking after you. We have had members had to isolate at the college already. Some people have displayed symptoms of coronavirus, as you would imagine. Only a small number, and luckily all of them have been well afterwards. But that's been handled quite well, and they haven't, as far as we can see, passed that on to anyone else. So, you know, by making people isolate immediately is the right thing to do. And obviously that's the way that worldwide we've stopped the spread of this disease. It is by socially distancing and also by isolating when we have symptoms. Have you got any questions come up?
Not yet, but a lot of love coming from the comments on Facebook Live. But of course, if anybody has any questions, please do pop them in. Shreya Swarup has a question. So can we book the ensuite room for 14 days and then go back to the shared bathroom room for the rest of the tenure?
That's right, yes, exactly. So when you get offered a place, your offer letter will tell you about what you need to do in order to book an ensuite room. Now, the ensuite rooms
are going to have people come and live in them permanently. So unfortunately, if you need to quarantine, you are going to have to arrive early in order to book one of those ensuite rooms. And that, you know, to be honest, there will be quite a lot of demand, because for the shared bathroom rooms, we have 300 of those, and for the ensuite rooms, we only have 165. So as you can imagine, it's slightly difficult to, you know, 165 doesn't fit, 300 doesn't fit into 165. But there are a lot of countries where you don't need to quarantine, so not everybody will need a quarantine room. And obviously, normally every year, at least 30% of those that live here, 30 to 35% of those that live here, were living here the year before. So some of the current members that are living here at the moment will continue through until 2021. So yes, you will need to book a room. I can't promise there will always be availability, and the later you leave it, the less likely, you know, there will be availability. And if we can't offer you a quarantine room, then what we're going to suggest is that you think about doing something like booking an Airbnb, a self-contained Airbnb, and you can quarantine in the Airbnb. You could also quarantine in the hotel if we've got availability there. They'll be willing to deliver your meals and provide clean linen and take away your rubbish and all of those sorts of things that we do during quarantine.
I know you've talked about it quite a bit, Carolyn, but just for the benefit of anybody who's just logged in, can you recap again some of the activities and events that are going to be available in the coming fall in spite of the coronavirus?
Yeah, so since we locked down in March, we've done as much as we can to try and carry on delivering a programme of events at the college. As you can imagine, most of that's virtual. There's been talks from our fellows and other people. We've also had something called the Dean's Perambulation. Now, the Dean likes very big words. I hope that he's not on this Facebook Live listening to me. But anyway, the Dean's Perambulation. And so the Dean has been taking people off for long walks in the afternoon to places of note and kind of giving them a little bit of a historical tour on the way. And always along the way, they bump into somebody. When I say bump into somebody by accident, this is somebody, our Dean is very well connected, he knows a lot of people. And so this has obviously been orchestrated in advance, and so you bump into somebody and they will then show you around. So for instance, I think this week there's a walk to Pimlico, and the person that everyone will bump into is Lady Britain. So Dean's Perambulation, we're introducing something called the Scola, which will be an academic talk in the evening outside in the quad. Limited numbers attending, but it will also then be streamed live. In the autumn, we will carry on doing welcome and orientation. Normally, those welcome and orientation events might be 100 to 200 people. There are going to be many more of them, but much smaller numbers. So for instance, we'll be asking you to book orientation as soon as you arrive, and that will be us all going to dinner in the Great Hall together. You saw that there's 45 seats there, so that will be the number that will be invited to attend orientation, and then followed on by some talks from people in the college, from me and from Alan, and we'll tell you how to get involved in college life this year. But it all depends on when the government opens up and starts easing restrictions, and the college is only following government guidelines. We're not varying from them. So if the government says that you can only meet 6 people outside, then that's what the college events will be. Obviously by September we're hoping that there'll be much larger numbers than that. And at the moment we're inviting our clubs and societies. We have clubs and societies at the college, and members can apply for funding for clubs and societies. And we're inviting the clubs and societies to apply for a special fund to try and think of events that they could do at the moment. So, as I've mentioned, I've been the one that's been pushing a little bit for a croquet tournament at some point that we're starting soon. But to be honest, what events will look like in the fall, I can't really tell you at the moment. I'm not going to overpromise, because, you know, if we are still in the same situation with only 6 people meeting, then that's the way it will have to remain.
There's a comment here from James Monahan. I was the bar manager there, and the bar was called Jimmy's Bar. Some great memories, and have some lifelong friends from those days.
Yeah, Jimmy's Bar was what's now called Freddy's Bar. Yeah, exactly. When I first arrived at the college and I came for interview, it was Jimmy's Bar. And then between me coming for interview and taking up the job, it turned into Freddy's Bar. And it was swapped around, so it was less of a bar and more of a cafe.
There's a question from Erika Bazbekovna. If the government decides to quarantine again, is it possible to withdraw from Goodenough and cancel our contract if you need to return home?
Yes. So this year, when members left, sorry, suddenly the wind's picked up, so if you can hear a kind of little rattling behind you, it's the windows rattling. Yes, and so we stopped charging rents on the day that people left. You did need to clear your room, but as long as you cleared your room, then your contract was ended. Goodenough College doesn't operate like other halls of residence does, so even those of you that have already got an offer know that we're happy for you to change your dates or even cancel within 4 days prior to arrival. We understand that things are really different this year. People don't want to commit and make plans that they then can't get out of or they need to get out of. Any other questions? I'm not sure that I've got anything else to tell you. We've got another 15 minutes. I'm not going to do a song and dance if you don't actually ask me questions for 15 minutes. It's more than they pay me for at this place, and actually more than you'd ever want to see, to be honest.
As we wait for more questions, I'll just read some really nice messages that people have left. James McBennett has said hello from NYC, from James and Carrie.
Hey James and Carrie, how are you doing well?
Andre Louis Mazzari has said, hey Carolyn, so good to virtually be at Goodenough.
Oh, hello Brazil, Andre.
He said, this is the place I spent the best 5 years of my life when I was studying for my master's and PhD at UCL.
Oh, so nice to see such old names coming up. Sorry, you're not old, of course, you're not old. Well, we should do some more Facebook Lives. It seems like most of the people that have actually logged in are alumni. But for those of you coming this year, you can see how connected people are to the college, and people, you know, do have a wonderful time when they're here, and they make friends for life when they're here as well. So I know good enough people that are connected. I know, I won't mention any names in case they don't want me to, but I know people that are even on this Facebook live stream that have met at the college and married. And in fact, this year, even in lockdown, we've had 2 Goodenough weddings this year. So both couples met at the college and both have married this year. And one just married just as lockdown ended. The first day that the UK allowed 30 people to attend a wedding was the day that they actually got married, which was really wonderful. And as a gift, and not that they couldn't have a party or anything, and obviously a honeymoon's out of the question at the moment too as well. So we sent them off to a really nice suite in the club for their wedding night. And hopefully they'll be able to celebrate in more style later on in the year. I can't promise you a partner for life if you come to the college, but you know, there's quite a lot of people here that are really lovely.
There's one question from Koyal Sreyashi Basu, which we haven't covered. Will the library be open for 24 hours along with the music facilities as before quarantine?
The music rooms are open. William Goodenough House music rooms were never open 24 hours anyway, because people live above them, and so somebody playing the trumpet at 3 o'clock in the morning is not going to be very popular. The London House music rooms, they have no bedrooms directly above them, and so actually those are open 24 hours. The library, we will have to see. At the moment, it's a booking system because, again, we're following the government guidelines. If the government guidelines open up and say that you no longer have to have a supervised, booked place in the library, then that's what we'll do. But unfortunately, we have no inside stream into what our government's going to do, and I don't know how much you've been watching what the UK government's going to do, but to be honest, what they say and do is highly unpredictable at the moment.
So we just have to wait, and we get the guidelines as soon as you get the guidelines. And so actually we don't know anything in advance about what the plans are for the future. And obviously they don't either, because what they're doing is tracking the course of the disease and making sure that the transmission rate remains low, or the R rate remains low. And as you know, you may have seen on the news that there's been one localised lockdown in the UK, which is Leicester, and there's been an increase in the R rate in Leicester, and so Leicester is under local lockdown, and that could happen at any point in the rest of the country as well.
There was also a question from Doni Jin. Can non-members visit once in a while?
Yes, so members can have guests. And there's two ways that you can have guests. I mean, in normal times, guests are absolutely welcome. And this is you're grown-ups coming to live here, and it's, we're not a boarding school here. So, even if it's, a club on a Saturday night and you've met somebody and you think, okay, well, we're going to go back to my room at Goodenough, that's fine. But not in Corona times, though, unfortunately. Or apart from the fact that the clubs aren't open anyway. In the UK at the moment, you have one person who's not a member of your household, and that person is in your social bubble, and it can only be one other person. And that person you don't have to maintain a 2-metre distance with. So that person could be a partner that you have been separated from, or it could be a family member that you're separated from. And that person in your social bubble, you register them at the college, and they can come and visit you, and they can go to your room, and they can stay overnight. All other visitors, you can have then one other visitor in your room that can't stay overnight. That's not 3 of you, that's if your social bubbler is not there. It's very complicated. So you can have other visitors in your room as long as it's only one at a time, but everybody that's not in your social bubble, that's only one person, your social bubble is only one person, you must maintain the 2-metre distance from. So you can only meet with one other person inside any building in the UK at the moment. But yes, guests are welcome. Or if or if it's your mum and dad or your sister, remember, you could, for instance, book them in at the hotel, and remember to say that you're a member or an alumni, and you get a discount. So, they could stay that way and visit you.
Erika Bazbekovna has asked, how do we visit the burn?
Oh, I'm so glad that somebody has asked that question. Now the burn has been closed at the moment, and it's just about to reopen. And the way that I would visit the burn, there's a couple of ways to visit the burn. So first of all, you phone and find out. It's a bit like booking a hotel. You phone and you book and say, right, I'd like to come on these days, and they tell you when the availability is. And then how do you get to the burn? Now, a lot of people think, well, I'm going to fly. It's the wrong way to do it. Don't fly to the burn, because you have to go from here to an airport, which is going to take you an hour. You have to check in an hour before at the airport, or in Corona times, maybe 3 or 4 hours in advance. And then you fly to Aberdeen, and it's only an hour and a half to fly to Aberdeen. But then from Aberdeen to the burn, you have to hire a car, and that'll take you another hour or so to drive. From here, the best way to do it is to walk to King's Cross, 10 minutes walk, get on the train, and 5.5 hours later, you get off the train at Montrose, which is a 20-minute drive from the burn. It's the easiest way to do it. I know it sounds like 5.5 hours on a train, but honestly, it's quicker and the least stressful. And the burn is wonderful. For those of the alumni on the call that never managed to go, when you come back next time, don't come and visit Goodenough College, go to the burn. The burn is so amazing. The burn was gifted to the college after the Second World War by a family whose son was killed, unfortunately, in the last few days of the Second World War in Italy, and the family couldn't bear to return to the house. So they gifted the house to the college. It's a 200-year-old house in a 200-year-old estate,
It's got a salmon river running through it. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'll tell you, the best thing to do is if you're doing a PhD and you've got stuck, you just can't write anymore, or you're doing a dissertation and you just, like the words just aren't coming out anymore, book yourself a week at the Burn. Absolute solitude, really quiet, absolutely beautiful. It'll just get the old brain cells going again. So I think we're about to finish up now, and thank you all for coming on. And I will do it again. You know, for those of you that have missed it and might be watching the recorded stream. But see you all.
Perhaps we'll give just a few more moments in case there are any other questions.
Yeah, one last question?
Yeah. I'm sorry to have to reposition, Carolyn, and I hope I'm not giving anyone vertigo. My biceps are just screaming. There's a question about do we pay to stay at the Burn, and I guess it's a separate sort of hotel type accommodation.
It is, yeah. So it's £75 a night to stay at the Burn, and the college helps with your travel costs up to the Burn, and the £75 includes breakfast, lunch, dinner, and afternoon tea. You always have to have afternoon tea when you're at the Burn, so you have cakes. Freshly made cakes and scones and whatever at the Burn.
And deep-fried Mars bars.
Yeah, the Burn doesn't do deep-fried Mars bars, but yes, you can go into the local town and they will deep-fry a Mars bar or even a pizza for you. I think they'd probably deep-fry almost anything you ask them to deep-fry. But yes, that is a local speciality, is the deep-fried Mars bar.
One nice last comment from Sherry Jenkins. Please do more of these streams. It's so nice having something so lovely to look forward to in the disaster that is 2020.
Oh, I know. But maybe if you come to join us at Goodenough College, 2020 won't be a complete disaster. Maybe the final part of 2020 will be the beginning of something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Carolyn, congratulations, you have gone viral.
What's that, 25 people watching?
50-something at the most. James Monahan had said, thank you for the live chat. I missed the place, my best job ever. And he was glad that you remembered him. Margot Lacoste has said it was lovely. Thank you, Carolyn.
Oh, you're welcome, you're welcome. So I will do a few more of these again during the summer, especially as things start to change and I can tell people a little bit more about what the autumn term is going to be like. But thank you all for joining, and see some of you in the autumn, and for some of you who have left us and are our alumni, come back and visit us for an alumni reception. We hope to hold one next summer, and we hope to see you there. Maybe, now that we've all got the hang of this virtual stuff, we should just have virtual feeds as well at the alumni receptions.
Lots and lots of thank yous from Erica, Kazia, Lizzo, Lydia, Scante. Thank you guys from Fionn, Electra. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.